calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics. We are the show! You want to know? It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Joe Mangiacotti Show here, Monday edition, new week, starting off here where common sense meets real talk, and we cut through some of the nonsense to get to the heart of the issues, and that's what really matters. Monday, March 3rd, 2025, and boy, do we have a packed show for you today, some housekeeping. You can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line is up and running, 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Today, flying the board behind the glass today. There you go. He'll get you set up and into the conversation. Don't forget the station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, which means you can take us anywhere. Just punch in WCRN, see our pretty cool new logo. Do me a favor, hit the like button. We know you're there, and then we're easy to find. You can also listen and watch my show on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, X, Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble in real time, as well as on the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel. So many ways to enjoy the show and listen to the show there. So let's start here, right here at home, guys, where the backward priorities of our so-called leadership were on full display once again. So over the weekend, an off-duty police officer did what we expect our law enforcement to do. He saved lives. A knife-wielding man chased two innocent people into a Chick-fil-A in the Back Bay. The officer, off-duty, stepped in, ordered the suspect to drop that weapon, and when he refused, he took decisive action to stop the attack. The result, two innocent people are alive today because of that officer's courage and training. Now, that should be the headline, right? That should be celebrated. But no, instead, Mayor Michelle Wu and Police Commissioner Michael Cox, the same one who told our bulldog, Tom Homan, that he was going to double down on not cooperating with ICE, that jamoke. Well, he felt compelled to send condolences, not to the victims, not to the brave officer, but to the family of the armed attacker. Think about that for a moment. Not a word of praise for the officer. Not a single mention of the trauma suffered by the people who were nearly killed. Instead, we get another example of this pro-criminal, anti-law enforcement mindset that has infected leadership in Boston and cities across the country. And this isn't an isolated moment. Mayor Wu is also set to testify before Congress about Boston's sanctuary city policies. Policies that protect criminals and put law-abiding citizens in danger. Now, I hope she has better, for her sake, advice and coaching, say, than the MIT president did and a few other university presidents who basically self-destructed their careers, and they were all either let go or had to resign shortly after the congressional hearing. So here's my question to you. When did we decide that criminals deserve more sympathy than the people they terrorize? And when did we decide that protecting our citizens to somehow is controversial? I want to hear your thoughts. 508-871-7000. Call in. Let's talk about that. Yep. Did you want to say?
I said something stinks in Boston.
It's not the waterfront.
It ain't the cheese.
Now, if you thought government overreach was just a local problem, let's take a look at what's happening at the federal level. Over the weekend, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, an Obama-appointed activist robe, decided she was more or has more power than the president of the United States. Take out the personalities, by the way. It's the offices, right? The presidency is bigger than anyone who holds it for a temporary amount of time. Our founding fathers instilled the power in the office of the presidency, not into Washington or Jefferson or anyone else. The office, the institution. But in a stunning display of judicial overreach, she ruled that Hampton Dillinger, who was fired by President Trump, must remain in his position as special counsel of the Office of Special Counsel. Really? Okay, folks. This is a constitutional crisis. I mean, a real one, not President Trump getting elected, as the left tried to pretend it was. See, the president has the authority to appoint and remove executive officials. That's Article 2 of the Constitution. Plain and simple. But Judge Jackson thinks she can override that. Now, if this stands, what's stopping any judge from dictating who a president can or cannot fire? This isn't just about Trump. This is about the future of the executive branch. If judges start deciding who stays in power, then elections mean nothing. The Supreme Court needs to act, and they need to act fast. Ted?
It's another attack on due process.
Yeah, the left doesn't seem to like due process. When it works for them, they love it and remind you should follow it. But when that due process does what it's supposed to do, weed out the inconsistencies and, biases, not so much. And we need to be paying very close attention to this case because the balance of power in our government is at stake. And that's what makes it all work. 3 separate but equal branches. And neither one of the branches should be overreaching or overstepping into one of the other branches. And finally, let's talk about what's happening on the world stage. President Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky over the weekend. Well, Friday. So let's just say this. It didn't go well. Zelensky came to Washington looking to finalize that minerals agreement and secure more aid. But things took a turn when he challenged Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance on their stance towards Russia. Trump made it clear, no more blank checks. If Ukraine isn't ready to negotiate peace, then the U.S. isn't writing another check for endless wars. This is a major shift in foreign policy. For years, Ukraine has counted on unconditional U.S. support from Uncle Joe, especially. But that era may be over. Now European leaders are scrambling. If America isn't guaranteeing support, will Europe step in? Will Zelensky have to rethink his strategy? And what does this mean for Trump's re-election campaign? Well, he doesn't have one. But he does have midterms. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi has told Democrats to sit back and let Trump stew in his own juices. Basically, their strategy is to stay quiet and hope Trump's foreign policy decisions sink him. But here's my question. Is ignoring these issues really the right approach? Shouldn't we be having real debate about the future of America's role on the world stage? This sitting your own juice thing might have worked a couple years ago. It's not working now. That's a very silly policy to take, in my opinion, that is. We've got a lot to unpack, and I want you to be part of that conversation. So call 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000, and let me know what you think. Should Trump be putting economic interests first? Should Boston's leadership be lacking or backing law enforcement instead of criminals? And how dangerous is the judicial power grab? Let's talk about it right here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We have a caller, Ted? Yep. All right. Tony, welcome to the show, Tony.
Hey, guys. Great show. Obviously, hot topics, crazy topics. What you have about 5 points. I'm just going to stick with the Zelensky thing. Although criminals are more important. It's the same as tenants, more important than the landlord. It's such a crazy shift in the way things should be. But guess what? The Democrats vote them in. What I thought was crazy about the Zelensky thing, and apparently it happened under Biden also. Biden was screaming at Zelensky for not saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I teach my kids, when you go somewhere, you thank them when you get there, you thank them in the middle, you thank them in the end. Often, early and often. The fact that we've had to tell Zelensky several times You never said thank you. I mean, checkmate. It's over. What are we doing?
Mhm.
Why, we're all going to work. You're working right now. You're getting your paycheck. You're paying for this guy?
And Tony, let me inject here, because a lot of people, because the way we consume news and media, saw the heated exchange at the end, that they didn't see the hour plus leading up to that. And then you see Zelensky zero in on J.D. Vance, right, challenging him on a statement about diplomacy. And this isn't something they put together Friday morning. This has taken weeks and weeks to put it together. They could have done it. He could have done it from Kiev, or he could have done it from Ukraine, some non-disclosed location. The cabinet, right, his cabinet in Ukraine ratified it already, and we just wanted his official signature. So this was supposed to just be basically ceremonial but signed. And Zelensky torpedoed this, and he wanted to get Trump on camera committing to what in essence would become boots on the ground in American involvement over there. This was an ambush by him, not by
Torpedo
Trump.
is a great word for it.
Say again?
Showboating.
Showboating. He was showboating. But Tony, he's been used to Joe Biden, and you brought it up, and it was true. Joe Biden absolutely has blown up on him on phone calls that we weren't privy to, and the media wasn't going to talk to us about it. But on the same issue, ungratefulness and arrogance in the sense of entitlement that we have to send this money and that we have to do this. So yeah, absolutely, Tony. Final word before I have to let you go. We're against the clock.
Oh yeah, fine. So it's the same as the first scene in the Oscar-winning Godfather, when the guy comes and asks the Godfather to murder the guys that raped his daughter. Is the Godfather, says you come here, but you offer no friendship and no respect.
Mm-hmm.
And
have you ever had me to your house for dinner? Right? Remember that?
Yeah. He put his foot down. Trump, thank God Trump puts his foot down and says, enough of this. Zelensky's turning into a little worm. I don't trust him. I thought he was great at the beginning of the war. It's over.
All right, Tony, thank you for the call. Greatly appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to take our first break here on the Monday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Stick with us. I'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. From top quality fuel to freshly stocked snacks and essentials, Yatco has you covered. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. For Yatco rewards, simply download the Yatco app and sign up. Friendly, clean, local, and always convenient. Make Yatco your favorite food and fuel stop. Stop by Yatco food and fuel stations today and experience the Yatco difference. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Monday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here in AM 830 WCRN. So I do want to just dive into that a little bit more because Zelensky arrived in Washington hoping to finalize minerals agreement, right, with the U.S., a deal that could have strengthened Ukraine's economic ties with America while securing much-needed resources. However, that meeting took that drastic turn. Zelensky challenged Trump and J.D. Vance on their approach. And he also called him J.D. If you're sitting in the Oval Office as the head of state and you're addressing the vice president, now, if you're private and it's dinner time, cameras aren't there, maybe you guys all call each other by your first name. But he really should have said Mr. Vice President, but he said J.D. Anyway, so he attacked Trump, Vance, on their approach to peace negotiations with Russia. Trump made it clear that he does not believe Zelensky is ready for peace. He accused him of using U.S. involvement as leverage in negotiations. He did. He wanted to get the big guy to bully back the bully, is what he wanted to do here. And the White House's stance was made clear. No further engagement until Zelensky is ready to continue and generally seek peace. Now, this confrontation signals a massive shift in how the Trump administration views Ukraine's war effort. Trump has long maintained the war should have been avoided, placing blame on Kyiv for not striking a deal with Moscow earlier. Now, this approach starkly contrasts with the previous administration that have provided Ukraine with military and economic aid without conditions, blindly, blank checks. Now the message from Washington is clear: economic partnership first, military assistance later, and only if a ceasefire agreement is on the table. Trump said it repeatedly. We need peace. Stop the young men and women from dying. Your citizens are being murdered. Peace. And I'm not going to sit here and call Putin a deranged lunatic and then call him and say, hey, let's talk about this. I get that. How do you not? With Zelensky being sent out of the White House, European allies are left scrambling to understand what's next. If the U.S. no longer guarantees unwavering support, will Europe step up, or will Ukraine be pressured into peace? A peace deal dictated by Moscow's terms, and Zelensky already seeking reassurances from the United Kingdom and other European leaders, but the future remains uncertain. Ted?
Yeah, my older ancestors would refer to this guy as a piccolo grande, a little Napoleon.
Little Napoleon. 508-871-7000. Let's pause and go to the phones for a moment. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Yeah, right. I think I have a theory about what happened to Little Zell, the shill. Little Zell, the shill. I think what happened to him is that he thought he was going to go down and shake down Trump like he did Biden. Of course, he can't shake down Trump because Trump got nothing Little Zell wants. So he left with a bag of beans, basically, and he told him, get the hell off my property. Well, before I lose my temper, get him out of here. I don't want to see you again until you're ready to talk turkey. All right? So he goes back to merry old England and having that nut job they got for a prime minister. They're hugging and they're kissing each other and mugging it up. But you know what? When all those leaders of Europe, and they're scoundrels, all of them going back 1,000 years, and that's what they're descended from. So anyways, he goes back to those scoundrels, and you know what they said to him behind closed doors for Little Zell? They said, you know what? You screwed up, and you screwed up big time, because you know what? The Americans offered you a better deal than we would or could ever offer you. So get your ass back there and hold out and take the deal he gave you initially. That's what happened behind closed doors in Europe.
Mark, absolutely right. And the thing, and thank you for the call. I appreciate it. And the thing about this, you understand if you've watched The Apprentice or paid attention to Trump or read the book, or just if you've been alive in his first term, what you understand is when he comes back, and he will, he's not going to get the same deal. Trump said, you didn't take it, you torpedoed it, so now that's going to cost you. So it's not a 50-50 sharing, it's a 60-40, say, or whatever the case is. But he's not going to get the same deal. You understand that, right? It just ain't going to happen. That's not the way Trump works. He should have taken it while he had it, and now it's going to cost him. But the bad part here, it's costing Ukrainian citizens lives. And J.D. Vance came back with the conscript part of it, that you're having trouble. You're running out of men to fight. That's not good either. And another political move, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, right? She's advising Democrats to stay quiet and let Trump stew in his own juices during tonight's joint address to Congress. Now, this advice suggests that Democrats believe Trump's foreign policy decisions and leadership style will be his own undoing. The Raging Cajun said it, right? Play possum, sit back. He's unraveling. Polls are already showing it. I don't know what polls he's talking about because Trump's approval rating is the highest it's ever been, including any time in the first term. But is ignoring Trump's policies a wise strategy? Or does it leave the American people without an opposition voice when it comes to critical issues like Ukraine? I don't think it's great advice. Was Zelensky's approach too aggressive? Or was Trump justified in cutting the meeting short? Yes, and yes. He was too aggressive. He blew this up. It had been worked out. Did you see the picture of the Ukrainian, the female ambassador? Her head, she puts her head in her hand at one point, like, I cannot believe the train wreck I'm watching right now. The poor woman probably lost 10 years of her life watching this thing blow up in front of her. And is Trump's economic first, military later strategy the right move for America? Well, I think as Trump as far as concerned, economic, yeah. When you're talking about our military for somebody else's borders, somebody else's country, Trump's not likely, if ever, going to send young American men and women to die on battlefields that are not protecting the homeland. Sometimes we have to with certain allies. I get that. But it's not going to come easy with this guy. Will Europe step up in the absence of guaranteed U.S. support for Ukraine? Mark just brought a good point up. They said you should have taken it because it's more than we would have given you, more than we can give you. When it gets down to it, as bad as things are with the economy, no other country can outspend us. Maybe China, but they have their economy is very fragile. I know the mainstream media don't talk about it, but it is. And how will this fallout impact Trump's reelection campaign? Well, not that he has one, so it doesn't, but he has midterms. And what was interesting, because he was asked about JD being set up to be the 2028 candidate, and he shot that down. He didn't automatically. He said, this is way too early to talk about it because a lot can happen between now and the 2028 race. Let's see what happens in the midterms, first of all. And Pelosi's advice to Democrats, wise political strategy or passive avoidance? Where does this come from? She's never had that kind of stance on anything like that before.
Joe, in our lifetime, you and I, it has been intimated that if you criticize a sitting president while negotiating with a foreign government, that's treason.
Yeah. And there's also, and we've seen incidents, because we all know what the Logan Act is. Now, the Logan Act, if you don't know what that means, it basically says no citizen can communicate with a foreign government as to speak for America other than ambassadors, special envoys, people who have been blessed by the executive branch of Congress to do so. And if we look back during the Biden years and even the first Trump term, right, we had a Milley. Remember, Milley reached out to the counterpart in China to say if Trump orders any kind of a nuclear attack. I mean, that was so crazy, right? And look at what the Biden administration has brought us to the brink of World War III, but they were worried about Trump. But you can't do that. John Kerry was going around as if he was representing the United States. Lovey, yeah. No, that's the Logan Act. Yeah, you can't do that stuff. So it'll be interesting tonight to see how they behave. And they're saying boycott it. Go ahead, boycott it. We don't have to smell your cologne in the congressional chamber. That's fine. Big deal. It says more about you than it does about the president. I think Hannity has J.D. Vance on tonight, so that's always interesting. But I want to back up to this Boston story. And over the weekend, this off-duty police officer, it did exactly what we expect and hope law enforcement officers will do: protect innocent lives. So when this knife-wielding attacker chased these people, they were just walking down the street, and they started chasing them. They weren't headed to Chick-fil-A, but it was the first business they saw open that they could go into to try to get away from this person. The officer confronted that threat, immediately confronted the attacker wielding the knife, ordered him to drop the weapon. He ignored it. The officer ended up doing what he needed to do. He shot him. So the result, 1 dead criminal, 2 lives saved, an officer who upheld his oath to serve and protect, even while off duty. Now that should be the headline, folks. That should be the story. Yet instead, an unequivocal praise should be happening for the officer's heroism. We got stunningly tone-deaf response from Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu and Police Commissioner Michael Cox. Absolutely incredible. I got to pause right there because we're against the clock and we got to take the mid-show break here on the Monday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Remember, you can watch and listen to the show on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile. And, of course, we do stream live to Rumble. We don't post it later. If you go to Rumble, to the Joe Mangiacotti Show right now, you can watch it in real time. All right, folks, stick with us. I'll come back on the other side, and we'll do the second half of the Monday edition. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. This is the one and only cold day this week. It's going to be low 30s and sunshine today, highs in the upper 40s tomorrow, and then 50s Wednesday and Thursday. Now, we do have some rain in the forecast for the middle of the week as well. Right now, that rain looks to peak on Wednesday night, but we'll keep you posted. After that, temperatures are set to drop again at the end of the week. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Monday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, which you can do for the remainder of the hour. Let me just finish my thought on this Boston story. Rather than championing the officer's bravery, right, both leaders felt compelled to offer condolences to the family of the attacker, the armed attacker. Yeah, you heard that right. Not a single mention of support for the officer. Not a single acknowledgement of the trauma endured by these innocent victims. This is sticking with them. Instead, we're treated to yet another example of pro-criminal, anti-law enforcement mindset that has infected so many cities. And that's not an isolated incident. Mayor Wu, she's set to testify before Congress regarding Boston's sanctuary city policies. Remember, I talked about the story about the Cox saying, doubling down, and that's when Tom Homan said, I'm coming to Boston and I'm bringing hell with me. Policies that have directly contributed to increased crime and violence by shielding illegal aliens from federal immigration enforcement. Her administration has consistently prioritized the feelings of criminals over the safety of law-abiding citizens. And now she's extending that same warped worldview to armed attackers who attempted to stab people in public, which none of the stories I've read on this or reports I've seen on this, no motivation as to this crazy person's reasoning. There wasn't a conflict as far as I can tell. So let's be clear. There is no moral obligation to sympathize with a violent criminal who refused to comply with police orders and put innocent lives at risk. The only appropriate response should have been, thank you to this brave officer for preventing what could have been a horrific tragedy. Anything less is an insult to law-abiding people of Boston who rely on law enforcement to keep them safe. This message from our leaders, folks, should be a simple one. Criminals who threaten innocent lives will face consequences. Instead, Wu and Cox are sending the opposite message, that even when you commit a violent crime, city leadership will still find a way to make excuses for you. This is exactly why Boston, like so many other progressive-run cities, is spiraling into chaos. When leadership refuses to back the police and instead rushes to offer sympathies for violent criminals, they embolden more lawlessness. Criminals know there are no real consequences, and any law-abiding citizens, well, they're left to fend for themselves. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Good afternoon, Joe. I got one for you. Here comes Joy Bear down the stretch with a 10-horse plank lead to the finished line. How you like that one?
Joy Behar, right? That's the View chick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gutfeld makes a lot of fun of her.
How does that leather taste, Joy? Oh, man. He just keeps doing it.
What'd she do now? I don't watch her. I don't watch her.
She went off on Elon. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, yeah. She went off on Elon. She made a comment about the kid. What I do when I do, the only time I see her is when she says something so stupid that Gutfeld plays it on as a clip. And she says things and she has no idea what the hell she's talking about, right? When she in real time, she made reference to Elon being pro-apartheid. And apparently they must have yelled in her ear. You gotta. So she said, oh, they're yelling at me. I have to apologize. I don't know if he was. Well, 20 seconds ago, you acted like you were saying it like you thought it was fact or you believe, why is that show on the air? They can't be. Maybe they are making money. I don't know.
But we're going to lose her.
You couldn't lose Joy Behar if you
Not
tried.
going to pass the stink test, Ken.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, so right. I was looking, and I'm going to take off on the Oscars in a minute, but because I'm on a group text with my sisters. I have all sisters, no brothers. Okay. Yeah, I know, right? So yesterday, all of a sudden, my phone starts dinging. And I look at it, I see it's the sibling group text. All day, all night, and even into this morning, they're talking Oscars. I don't jump in on that conversation, right? I don't care about the Oscars. But I did read this morning, I see my phone goes off, I look down, and they're talking about how wonderful Whoopi looked. And I'm thinking, that almost has me curious enough to go look it up. Because how did that pull? How'd she pull that one off? Cranes? Anyway, what were you saying?
Well, on that topic, I know nothing because I watched nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, anyway, the big item on Friday, obviously, that everybody's talking about. Well, let me give you one. Let me give you an angle. Zelensky is incompetent and insecure. That being a fact, you have to take fault at Trump and the administration for giving him 50 minutes to prove it. That doesn't help anybody.
Well, it wasn't supposed to. Literally, this was all worked out. And it was Zelensky who insisted he come all the way to the United States, and he does it in the White House. They were ready to do it, let him be there in his parliament. They ratified it. It was all done.
He burned his 15 minutes.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be very, ceremonial. In essence, it was supposed to be this great thing. He torpedoed it. He threw the monkey wrench in the 11th hour. And you knew that he was under Trump's skin when he first showed up dressed like he was. One of the first things Trump did is make a comment about how he showed up to the White House.
But Trump joked about that issue. So
He did, but that doesn't mean it didn't bother him. I think it shows it bothered him greatly.
All right, but it's Trump's house. If you can read the situation of his incompetence, you minimize the time with him and get him to sign and get out.
I understand what you're saying, but A, that's not Trump's style. And B, Zelensky was supposed to do a performance as head of state.
Can see it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that it did better by letting everybody see Zelensky be what he is. And it wasn't all supposed, that wasn't not what was agreed upon. That's not what was supposed to happen. This was a done deal. And that's why you see his ambassador holding her head in disbelief.
Right. But here's the point. The last thing he wants is an end to the war, because when that happens, he's gone.
He's gone. And there's going to be an accounting. There's going to be an account. Yeah. And that's already starting. J.D. Vance is calling for it. Trump's calling for it. Congress and senators are calling for it. That there's just way too much money has just disappeared without it being tracked well enough.
Yeah, he could have got a better outfit for $83 million.
Yeah. I mean, you can afford, never mind $1,000 suit. You could have done one of those $10,000 suits, No, it's just
here's another
different
take.
Yeah.
It appeared that the trigger was when he asked JD about diplomacy.
Yeah.
Now, most people, 99% out of 100, is going to take it the way JD as an insult. No, I think he genuinely doesn't have a clue how to be successful with diplomacy. That's how incompetent he is.
Well, he hasn't
it actually was a give me a lifeline.
And let's not forget that prior to going into this, he met all these members of Congress who were just been kissing his ass for 3 years, encouraging all this, right, to support Ukraine, unquestionably support, and just keep sending money. And whoever briefed him for the meeting with Trump did a very poor job, or he just didn't listen. But you can't convince me that he did not understand. You're not going to speak with Joe Biden right now. And Joe Biden blew at him 2 years ago. The media didn't tell us about it, right? Joe Biden blew up him, yelled at and chewed him out on the phone for the same thing, for being disrespectful, for not being grateful for it and thankful for it, not saying thank you, and having that arrogance and sense of entitlement. Biden blew up at him. But we didn't
Wasn't
see
my
that
point.
live on TV, though.
All of these facts are incompetence and insecurity. That's what it all adds up to. And that makes the world more dangerous, given that he's
Absolutely.
in power. And the reason why he is in power is because the manipulators of the world wanted somebody like him to manipulate.
And not
In the
to
same way that we had the Biden as president for 4 years. They
Yeah.
wanted somebody incompetent.
they did want somebody in common. And the other part is, let's not forget that he canceled the elections under martial law. He was supposed to face an election, and he didn't. He was making himself president for as long as that can go. That, like you said, to your point, that will end when the war ends, and there has to be election. But now you have members of Congress and stuff, and the president, our president, saying, "You guys got to get rid of him. He's got to have a serious attitude adjustment, or you need to put a new person in there because this isn't gonna straighten out now." Zelensky has tainted the pool.
We don't control who is their president.
No, that's the point. We have to deal with Zelensky because he's their sitting president.
Which is why exposing his situation has just made things worse and far more difficult. That's what scares me.
I don't know about that because Trump, see, when we talk about Trump has to do what he did. He has to be transparent, and he has to let the American people see, because if he counted on the media to convey what went on there, they would make him out to be the bad guy or incompetent guy. Ted,
I would much rather have a sitting president overtly disrupt the politics in another country than covertly attempt to displace a politician in another country.
I see what you're saying there, but the thing is, he wasn't even trying to do that. If Zelensky just signed what everybody worked out ahead of time, what his own parliament ratified already, and as far as Ukraine was concerned, they didn't need Zelensky for this minerals deal, but it was us who said, well, the president of the country needs to sign it. And he blew it up. And I'm glad that we saw it. Ken, thank you for the call. We're against the clock. Appreciate it. Always a good call. But he blew it up, folks. And I'm glad that we got to see it. And even though it also looked real, by the way, it's not real, in case you don't know that. What we see is actually tape delay. Everything that went on there happened several minutes ahead. They process the tape. They release it to the media. We're seeing it on a tape delay for obvious reasons. All right, folks, take a third break here. Come back with the fourth and final segment on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response: Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772 1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Monday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. And, of course, you can, tune in app, take us anywhere, anytime. Tell Alexa, play WCRN. She'll do it. No questions asked. And, of course, when I do air my show, you can also watch it and listen to it on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, Twitter, X, as they say, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile. And more importantly, of course, on Rumble in real time. And then everything is actually loaded up to Twitch TV so that you can get Twitch TV on your Fire Stick, your Roku, your smart TV. Just search it. You'll see the logo. Download it. It's free. So Hollywood's night of self-congratulation, the decline of the Oscars, folks. There was a time when the Academy Awards were a must-watch event in American households, right? The Oscars were a celebration of filmmaking at its best. A night when actors, directors, producers were honored for their craft, and audiences were treated to moments of true Hollywood magic. It was an evening about great movies, memorable performances, and storytelling that captivated the hearts of millions. But those days are long gone. Today, the Oscars have devolved into a little more than self-indulgent spectacle, hijacked by the Hollywood elite, who are so far removed from everyday Americans that they might as well be living on another planet. But I don't think that's going to happen. They're not like an Elon much these days, and that's the best chance. So let's be honest. Hollywood has lost touch. The men and women who once entertained us now spend their time preaching to us. These are people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, living in gated mansions, flying private jets, and attending exclusive galas. Yet they take to the stage on Oscar night to lecture middle-class Americans about morality, politics, and how we should live our lives. The average American makes about 65 grand a year, 68 grand a year, struggling with rising costs of living, inflation, job security. Meanwhile, these actors and filmmakers, who are in more in a single film than most of us will in a lifetime, demand that we change our ways while they bask in luxury. No one tunes into the Oscars to hear a bunch of actors who are famous for pretending to be other people tell us how we should think. They are not statesmen. They are not political experts. Their job is to entertain, dance, monkey, dance, not dictate policy or push their elitist ideologies on the rest of us. Yet, year after year, they hijack what should be a night about film and turn it into a sanctimonious lecture series. The problem isn't their arrogance. It's the movies themselves have suffered. Hollywood is no longer focused on making great films that inspire and entertain. Instead, the industry is obsessed with pushing wokeness and social justice narratives that the majority of Americans don't care about. Studios are more interested in meeting arbitrary diversity quotas than hiring the best talent for the job. Movies are made not to tell great stories, but to check boxes and appease a small, hyper-progressive audience that does not represent the wider movie-going public. And what's the result? Well, box office bombs, uninspired storytelling, and declining industry that's losing touch with the very people who once made it great. I do not and will never understand why a singer or a major sports figure will get into politics and alienate half of their fan base. Reba McEntire, Dolly Parton, these are people, Michael Jordan. He said Republicans buy sneakers too. Take a look at the films that succeeded. Top Gun Maverick, a massive success, not because it was political or woke, but because it was good old-fashioned American movie. It celebrated heroism, patriotism, and the values that audiences actually connect with. Say again?
It celebrated merit.
It is celebrated merit. It was thrilling, well made, very entertaining. Everything that Hollywood used to stand for. Meanwhile, the agenda-driven films that the industry pushes are failing left and right. They don't resonate with the audiences, and they don't make money. Hollywood is learning the hard way that Americans don't want to be lectured. They want to be entertained. That's what your industry is based on, guys. Escapism.
Hey, Joe, do you have any contacts we could get the ambassador to Hollywood on the show?
Ambassador to
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson is one of the few openly conservative, him and Stallone. Yeah. But the Oscars should be a celebration of artistry, storytelling, and entertainment, not a political rally for out-of-touch elites.
The art of it is gone, Joe.
It is. And storytelling is a massive, massive talent that has been disappearing. If Hollywood wants to win back the trust and interest of the American people, it needs to get back to what it does best, making great movies. But until then, the Oscars will continue to be bloated, irrelevant spectacle that fewer and fewer Americans care about. Hollywood was once a beacon of dreams and creativity. Now it's a factory for divisive, agenda-driven propaganda. But there is hope. Audiences still crave real entertainment. They want movies that inspire and uplift and captivate them. If Hollywood ever remembers that, maybe, just maybe, the Oscars will be worth watching again. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. We got a few minutes left, so if you want to jump in. I did want to get to this rogue judge, too. I wanted to mention this. A fundamental principle, guys, of the United States Constitution is that the president, elected by the people, holds the executive power. That's why we call it the executive branch. The power includes the authority to appoint and remove executive officials. Yet, in an astonishing act of judicial overreach, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, an Obama appointee, has effectively attempted to strip the power from the president. Happens to be Trump right now. But remember, when we say president, we talk about the office. And it does change with the person occupying it. But the institution never changes. And on Saturday night, Judge Berman Jackson issued an order declaring that Hampton Dillinger remains the special counsel of the Office of Special Counsel, despite President Trump having dismissed him. Her ruling directs executive branch officials to recognize Dillinger's authority and prevents them from interfering with his duties. Well, this maneuver is not just a judicial overstep, folks. It is a direct challenge to the separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution. Stay in your lane, lady. Article 2 of the Constitution clearly vests the president with executive authority, including the power to remove appointed officials. While Congress may legislate structures for federal agencies, it cannot override the president's fundamental executive authority, folks. This is not merely a theoretical point. It has been affirmed by the Supreme Court in landmark cases such as Seala Law versus CFPP and Collins versus Yellen, which recognize the president's broad removal power. You cannot cut the president's or the office of the president off at the knees. In contrast, Judge Berman Jackson's ruling attempts to impose statutory restrictions on the president's removal authority. It's like saying you have a CEO of a Fortune 500 company that cannot fire an incompetent boob or director or manager of a department. See, they're not union. Even a CEO of a corporation has problem firing a rank and file union member, right? That's the whole purpose. But when you're talking about management, the directors, the heads of the departments, that's different. That's executive branch. Now, she justifies this by distinguishing the Office of Special Counsel from other executive agencies previously addressed by the Supreme Court. However, her reasoning does not hold up against constitutional precedent, nor does it recognize her broader implications that this decision are going to do here. It's overreach. And this is a path to a constitutional crisis. See, by issuing this order, Judge Berman Jackson has placed the country in the midst of a constitutional crisis. Her ruling effectively creates a situation where federal judges could dictate the composition of the executive branch. Let that sink in for a second. So the people you see being appointed and heading up these agencies, Dan Bongino as deputy director, not even the even the ones that aren't congressional or Senate approval. They just don't let you hire the people you want. Think about what that will do. Her ruling affects the situation where federal judges absolutely can dictate the management staff.
Joe, it is indicated in the Constitution that the judiciary is prohibited from issuing judgments that could have prior restraint. And this
limiting the president's ability to govern.
So this is explicitly what was the word you used it a moment ago? Where
overreach?
Yeah, it's a separation of powers issue.
Absolutely it is. The danger of such an approach is clear. If left unchecked, it would set a precedent for judicial intervention in all future presidential personal decisions, crippling the executive branch's ability to function. And they constantly do this. They feel they're totally justified because it's Trump and Trump bad. So if he's so bad, we can do things that are unconstitutional in violation of the Constitution because, it's Trump. But eventually that office will be occupied by someone else, folks. The Supreme Court's response to this crisis has so far been frustratingly low, while Justices Gorsuch and Alito have correctly identified the unconstitutional nature of Berman Jackson's order. The court as a whole has not yet to issue a definitive ruling. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has filed emergency appeals to overturn this unlawful judicial interference. Anyway, the High Court must step in immediately to reaffirm the separation of powers. The Constitution does not permit lower courts to micromanage the executive branch. The only way to resolve this crisis is for SCOTUS to overturn Jackson's ruling and reinforce the president's absolute authority over executive appointments and dismissals. That's just what has got to happen, folks. But this wraps up the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock with the Joe Mangiacotti Show. So stay tuned right here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Joe out, folks.